All right, folks, here I am freshly scrubbed and showered, or at least showered. Um, it is so difficult to determine how many videos to do at this point in time because, as I've mentioned to you, the primary astrology of the second half of this year is very much set. That doesn't mean that it's not without turmoil. It is, in fact, astrology of turmoil insofar as it is the astrology of closing out a cycle that has been in play since the middle of July 2018 and allowing a new cycle that has been in play since about April the 5th of 2020 and remains in play for all of 2021 to take hold. As we head towards the end of the year, more and more of the new cycle will come into play, and right now we still are very much in the throes of completing our Cancerian and Capricorn work. The eclipses since the middle of July 2018 have been in the signs of Cancer and Capricorn. We are being asked to take on Cancerian properties, but more importantly, we're being asked to tackle challenges or avail of opportunities. Where Cancer is in our chart, the sign of Cancer sits in our chart, which house it occupies, what that house stands for. And at the same time, we're being asked to release behaviors and patterns in a pretty serious and intense way, I have to say, wherever the sign of Capricorn sits in our chart and whatever it is that it occupies. High plant, get back there. And of course, a planet that is aiding us in this process, even though it doesn't feel like aid, is Mars in Aries, the planet of self-assertion and vitality, which is soon to go retrograde on September the 9th in the sign of Aries itself. So the planet of me, myself, and I, and what I want and what I want to go for, and is sort of pushing us to get done with tasks that need to be get done with and energies that have to be wrapped up since the middle of July 2018, and encouraging and pushing us to go into the new. And also Mars in Aries wants to avail of these new energies in a certain sense, and so it's very difficult for Mars in Aries to really properly take hold until these energies are cleaned up. Now, outside of that, there are various transits that are in play in complex ways because the personal planets, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and when we talk about the Sun, we have to talk about the new moons and the full moons, are, as they do at this time of the year, going through the signs of Cancer. Venus is still in Cancer. My last video was about Venus in Cancer. Leo, Venus will enter Leo on September the 6th or 7th, I believe. Virgo, both Mercury and the Sun are currently in Virgo, and the next new moon in Virgo is on September the 17th. Libra, later in September, the planets, Mercury especially, fairly soon is going to move from Virgo to Libra, actually. Yeah, and then Scorpio, and by the time we get to Sagittarius, we really are in play for the new set of eclipses that are on the Sagittarius-Gemini axis. Now, outside of Mars in Aries and Cancer and Capricorn, these signs, we've got other longer-term planets at play as well. Neptune in Pisces, which has been there for an awfully long time, and Uranus in Taurus, which will be there for another 5 or 6 years. So, planets from Leo support Mars in Aries and Chiron in Aries. Planets from Virgo support the planets in Capricorn, but they oppose Neptune and Pisces. Planets from Libra, I am warning you, Libra season, which starts when Mercury enters Libra, the astrology is full of turmoil, and it's full of turmoil. I likened it in one of my videos previously I likened it to being in some sort of a period novel or in a party or in a Jane Austen novel where there are a big cast of characters in a room or a set of rooms or in the same house, in your chart. And at times they're cooperating with each other, and at times they're pushing and needling each other, at times they're challenging each other. It reads a little bit like that, how the planet of communication, how a messenger sets something off, and how the relationship planets currently squaring each other are challenging each other, but then soon will support each other. It's kind of overwhelming. And so this idea of doing videos at this time for each and every such transit almost feels like overkill. If you're really managing your life in such a micro way that you are waiting for a positive transit today and then a challenging transit tomorrow and then day after, somewhere you might lose sight of what is really you being called upon to do. And to understand that it is a challenge. Some people will find this challenge exciting because as eclipses change signs and they start to wrap up, and as Saturn and Jupiter get done with a sign, which they will by December, it's a time of change. So for some people, the change can be exciting and new, and for some people, the change is going to come with an ending that feels really rather difficult, or one that might be forced upon them, or a set of consequences or learnings that reluctantly but absolutely seriously have to be taken into account. So all of this is in work, different places. Mars in Aries is a very adventurous placement, a very risk-friendly placement. And it's in curious transit with the planets in Capricorn, which are not quite so risk-friendly, and Cancer. Now, all of that said, we have a full moon on September the 1st, late September the 1st here, 10-something p.m. Pacific time. So it would be September the 2nd for some folks, in the sign of Pisces. Okay? And it's funny because typically I will say to you that you can start to feel a full moon, 48 hours or so before a full moon, more like 24 hour and 24 before and 24 after. But we can already feel this full moon in Pisces. So if you know where Pisces is in your chart, and as a hint, we've talked about the sign of Pisces a lot in this channel. There was a crisis in the sign of Pisces and where it sits in your chart, the house it occupies in late 2015 and 2016. And every Mercury retrograde in the sign of Pisces since then, around February, March, April of every successive year, has dredged this up. It's only recently that the sign of Pisces has only got Neptune in it. But, in a couple of days' time, the moon is going to be in there. But part of the reason why this Pisces full moon is already active is that Mercury, the planet of communication, is in the sign of Virgo. And tomorrow it opposes Neptune in Pisces. So, as I've mentioned to you, the exact date of a transit is almost less important typically than the days leading up to it. So I would say 4 or 5 days leading up to the transit, you feel the building. The transits meet and then the energies start to dissipate. And it's as they get ready to meet, that's the time period that is important. The other transit that occurs tomorrow, which I touched upon in my last video, the Venus in Cancer video, is Venus opposing Pluto tomorrow. Venus, the planet of relationships and money and finances, opposing Pluto, the planet of power and domination and power structures and death and transformation, and really forces that we cannot control. So in many respects, when I was thinking about the title of this video is really going to be a very cheesy one. I'm going to go back to A Few Good Men and kind of echo Jack Nicholson's line of "Can you handle the truth?" Because it has that kind of feeling to it. Really, what I would call it is reckoning, but I've called at least one of my previous videos reckoning, and reckonings are always happening astrologically, and it is a kind of reckoning. Venus opposing Pluto from the sign of Cancer, it's a short-lived transit, but it's not a transit that can be ignored. So when the planet of relationships and finances and arts and creativity, but particularly the planet of relationships and balance in a sign of Cancer where it's comfortable and it's trying to restore a certain amount of balance in this part of the chart that has been so active since 2018, is challenged. It's a quick challenge because Venus is going to go over and it's going to be done in about a week's time. But Venus opposes Pluto tomorrow, and then it's going to oppose Saturn a day after the full moon, which is really a reality check planet. So reality checks in terms of relationships are very much the order of the day. And there's an element of change and death and transformation and forces and change that you cannot control, and consequence, and with Saturn in the mix, these are not, Venus likes to sit back and let things happen naturally and let things flow and let there be abundance and let relationships flourish. And yet the universe, or the chart, sees a need to hold that energy in check. And the question is why? Some of the clues or some of the energies that are operating in this time have to do with two strong planets opposing each other. Mercury in Virgo is strong. Virgo is a sign Mercury rules. Data, facts, information, the ability to use data and information to make decisions around how to manage and control one's reality, how to find subordinates and team members, how to delegate, how to manage your life. how to bring a sense of structure and organization and reality, that planet opposes Neptune and Pisces. And Neptune and the sign of Pisces, Neptune rules Pisces, strong in Pisces, is a planet of loss and dissolution. Neptune and Pisces. Nobody and nothing is yours. I'm going to teach you that lesson so that you don't find yourself holding on possessively, a very Virgo quality, to anything that I deem you need to give up or release. Now, Neptune's releasing often has to do with it. There's an element of a sacrifice, and it necessarily, when we go with the concept of the idea that nothing and no one is yours, has to do with some sort of an attachment. But Neptune tends to work a little bit like the South Node, insofar as it's releasing things that are no longer serving you, but often we can't see them, and we can't see that. So the planets of facts and data and information that may be coming up, information that's making its presence felt, information that's knocking insistently, information that asks us, organization, to manage and control and take action and swing into action to create our realities and go after the results we want, is opposed rather powerfully by a planet that is about understanding the true nature of your spirit and your soul, and realizing that you really are free in a certain sense and connected to everyone and everything, but in a non-possessive way. Possessiveness in relationships, Pluto opposing Venus. Control, manipulation. The insistent, unignorable knock of reality on illusion. Those are the energies that have been characterizing these past few days, and continue to do so, at least until tomorrow, but even past. It's kind of sobering to think about it, because as Mercury clears Mercury clears the opposition with Neptune, you know, the planets in Virgo supporting the planets in Capricorn. That's what I mean by it's such a jumble, you know. Two planets that are fighting with each other, all of a sudden one planet supports this planet that's actually supporting that. It's just like, okay, it's like being in gossip land. There's so much information and data, and so many allegiances that can change, and everything is very shifty, and yet the overall message is the same. Get done with the energies, avail of opportunities, rise to the challenges that have been in place and are asking for resolution that have been in place since mid-July 2018. Release behaviors and patterns that are no longer serving you. Serve out the sentence of consequence where you need to, if you need to, and move forward into the more energizing realms of the signs of where Gemini and Sagittarius sit in your chart. But at least right now, relationships especially, there's a real, it's a real tussle in terms of reality and facts and data and what is surfacing and what is coming up and what we may want to ignore. And it's not a peaceful time. I was going to say it's not a time to keep the peace, and it's not a time to keep the peace. But some of us are instigators in that, and some of us are unfortunately going to have to be receivers of that. Not everyone's going to get what they want through this, and in a certain sense, I would say that planets like Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn are powerful planets. Venus in Cancer is certainly well placed. Mercury in Virgo is certainly powerful, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to start by accepting what is. You have to start by not being in denial. That is the order of the day, my friends. When we get to the full moon on September the 2nd, September the 1st, for some of us, September the 2nd for others, it's a bit of a timeout. But again, it's a timeout between the sun in Virgo, control and meticulous organization, and indeed control in a good way, trying to swing into action to save your days, and organize yourself and get things done, and not be at the forces of others or life or energies, and opposing the moon in Pisces, a sign of loss of control and letting go. That's where the energy is really active, and that's where it's really building. Because at a certain point in September, the Sun will oppose Neptune from Virgo in about 10 odd days' time. So, those are the themes that are currently at work. Added to that, Venus opposing Pluto is no joke in terms of the power struggles and the tension and the transformation, the tension between wanting things to be and to flow and letting things be and accepting things and enjoying things as they are and leaning towards nurture and protectiveness, and the planet of transformation, the planet of death and transformation, the planet of ending things, breaking things down, completing things. That is where things sit. Okay, heck, less than 20 minutes. I'm proud of myself. That's the one thing about these videos. The next video I'm going to do is the full moon in Pisces video, unless I manage to squeeze a Mars video in. Irrespective, I'm going to find the balance between the micro movements of the planets and sticking to the lunation videos and the eclipse videos as we get to the end of September, because they're going to start kicking up again. But here we are. If you liked this video, found it useful, found it accurate, feel free to share it, point your friends to it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, encourage others to click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button once you subscribe to be notified when I do new videos. My contact information is in the description box. You can contact me to inquire about rates for a reading. You can contact me to inquire about rates for an easy-to-read version of your chart that tells you which sign is in which house and what those houses stand for. You will need to know your birth time for that. Do not send me your birth time. Inquire about rates first. Be comfortable with that before you do anything else. And we will leave it at that. On to my next video. I'm glad to be able to do one of these videos after a bit of a break. Okay, take care.